Hello and welcome to the Business Interview. I'm Markus Karlsson. Today we are talking trade, and we're doing it at a time when the European Union and the United States are negotiating a deal to create the world's largest free trade zone. The Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership is seen as a huge economic boon. The ambition was to finalize a deal by the end of this year, but there are warnings of likely delays, and there are reports of the talks hitting a snag over the efforts to create common environmental and health standards. Sweden is seen as one of the real winners of a potential deal, and for more on where the negotiations currently are, we can turn to Sweden's Trade Minister Eva Björling, who's joining me here in the studio. Welcome, Minister, to the programme, first of all.
Thank you.
Now, tell us, you are here in Paris trying to push this deal, and you're speaking to bankers and also French politicians. Tell us where the negotiations with the United States currently are when it comes to this free trade deal.
Well, we have done 4 negotiation rounds now, and I believe that the first 3 ones were more just to have a feeling of how far can we go, which are the most important things to discuss, and so on. And this 4th round was more going into detail. And
so we're now coming to the meat, so to speak, of these negotiations.
Exactly, and the difficult part.
The difficult part.
Yeah.
What is your feeling when it comes to when this deal can actually be done? As I said, there are concerns of some delays.
Mm-hmm. That I will say it's a question for the crystal ball to answer when it can be done. But I know that we have high ambitions from the European side. And the same goes for US. And when we started this, the intention was to finalize this during Obama's mandate period, and maybe not during this commission's mandate period, but as soon as possible after this.
So no later than 2016 then, if we're going to wrap it up, before Obama starts thinking about leaving office?
I don't think we should stipulate an exact date, because many things can happen on the way, as it has done before, and it can be delays. But if we are as ambitious as we are now for the moment, and both of us have realized that it is really a win-win situation, then I think that we can finish rather soon, yes.
But if we look at the European Union, the countries that are seen to be to be benefiting from a potential deal, it's the UK, Spain, Sweden, and also Ireland. It's not all of the European Union nations, at least not as much as those 4 countries. Do you think there is real determination within the European Union itself to finalize this deal? Is everyone on the same page here in Europe?
From my experience, I've been a trade minister now for 7 years. So I've followed this closely since I started in 2007. I must say that I've never seen so much support for free trade negotiation as for this one from all the member states. There's no member state that feel that this is not what we are going to do, completely the opposite. And I believe that, of course, we don't know yet exactly what is going to be included. More than that, we want to have a deep and broad agreement, and we want it also to be done in an innovative way. At that time, when we have finalized, then we know exactly how much each European member state will win. But it's something in it for all, I can say.
I mean, is France really in it, though? Because the concern has been that France perhaps is one of the countries that is not on the same page as you are. Last year, France won a concession, for instance, to exclude the cultural sector for these negotiations. What kind of feeling do you get when it comes to how enthusiastic the French are?
Well, I believe that France is definitely one of the real winners. And if you think about how much we can win when it comes to the services sector, banking, financing, and so on, and France, with very, I would say, highly technological industry also, France can win enormous. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important also to remember, why are we doing this? Why is it so important for the moment? Well, we need, both of us, to have more growth and to create more job opportunities. And Therefore, it's rather natural that two strong economies can join each other. And we have a very good relation already now between EU and US. And why not deepen and broaden them?
Some American politicians have been quoted saying that the Europeans or the European Union needs a deal more than the United States does. Do you agree with that? And also, does that mean that the European side is going to have to make more concessions?
I believe that both of us need it, both US and the European Union. And we are both of us winners. And so I don't think that we should evaluate.
But if we look at the numbers,
exactly
the European
who
Union
needs it
economy has
most.
more to gain than the US economy. 119 billion euros per year versus 90 billion euros per year, according to the European Commission.
Depending on which scenario you count with. Because today we don't know how deep it's going to be. We know that we have rather low tariffs for the moment, so that's not the real part where we can win a lot. I think that if we can agree upon regulatory issues, we can agree upon different standards to have mutual recognition, then both of us can be real winners.
I wanted to talk about regulatory standards a little bit, because there are concerns, at least in Europe, that some people are worried about having to adapt European standards that they perceive higher than your American standards. There's concern that we will have to adapt European standards to American standards. What do you say are those concerns, and how big is that issue if we look at the sticking points?
And we have said like this, that we are not going to lower any standards. We are not going to have weaker regulations in any way.
But how is that possible? I mean, when you negotiate, don't you have to basically agree on the lowest possible common denominator?
Or to agree on the highest. So that's up to the negotiators. But we have said that we should stick on to our values, and that we should still have a good protection for humans, and we should take the environment in consideration all the time. And we are not going to be weak about that.
But what do you say to the
rather
people?
the opposite. But there are several different ways of doing this, of course. And so far, we don't have any clear suggestion at the table. So I think that we have to come back to those and discuss it in detail when we know the suggestions exactly.
But what do you say to those people who are worried, for instance, about American genetically modified foods entering into the European markets? What do you say to those people who are concerned?
We have that concern in Sweden too. And since many people in Europe are concerned when it comes to GMOs and so on, and we have said from the Swedish government that we are not going to give up our rules at all. And then I must mention also that from the Swedish government, we have not said a general no to GMOs at all. We have said that we will evaluate this case by case, as we have done also in the European Union, and we will continue with that, of course. So we are not going to allow exactly the same system as US, but still I think that we can agree also upon those things.
I want to change tack a little bit and talk about what's happening in Ukraine at the moment. There is an ongoing crisis in Ukraine, and some people are calling for tougher actions against Russia when it comes to Russian trade. Do you think that there could be sanctions against Russia, more sanctions against Russia, and will they stretch as far as trade?
Well, I think that like this, that we are a lot of European countries that have trade with Russia, and Sweden was just one example. And Russia is an important trade partner, recently also joined the WTO. But for the moment, I think it's too early to say, are we going to have more sanctions? Are we going to tell our companies that you should not trade with Russia? That's a question that I rather often get, that what's your recommendation? And then I said that it's too early yet to say something about the future for Russia. I hope that this situation with Ukraine will be solved. And of course, I hope in the future of that we also can have more trade both with Ukraine and Russia, and that it will go back to a more normal situation again. That's where we are for the moment. So I don't think that we should discuss hypothetical questions in advance.
Do you think, though, that trade between Sweden and Russia could take a hit, even if there aren't any sanctions looking ahead? Do you think that Russia will pay the price economically? A lot of people are predicting that, including the International Monetary Fund, which has warned about geopolitical tensions hitting the Russian economy.
Well, again, then I think it's too early to say, but ask me that question in 6 months again, and in the end, of course, it's the company's own decision to make. Do I want to make business with Russia or not? As long as we don't have EU sanctions or UN sanctions in various forms.
Now, the European Union is currently eyeing an association agreement with Ukraine, and trade is one of those issues that will be on that agenda as those talks set off when the Ukrainian presidential election is over. How can the EU help Ukraine looking ahead when it comes to the trade issue again?
Well, when it comes to the trade issue, of course, we would like to see more free trade between us, to have lower tariffs, to have less bureaucracy, and definitely also less corruption, because that's a huge problem, both in Ukraine and in Russia, which also hampers trade, of course. So it's a lot of problems that we need to deal with, but still, I believe that we should not avoid to trade with difficult countries because of these difficulties, because then we can never make a change. I don't think it will help that much that we are standing in Brussels or in Sweden, for example, saying that we should have a boycott or isolate country X or Y. I think that the best thing is still to have trade.
With that, we're going to have to wrap up this interview. Eva Björling, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us here at France 24.
Thank you.
And with that, we're also going to be wrapping up this program. Thanks for watching France 24, and do stay with us. We have more news coming your way.